Hey guys, this is Thorn. Just going to take a quick look at what's going on with the auction. We've got maybe 10 or 12 horses, depending on how many outs left to go. It's been a good sale so far. I don't think that there's been many surprises. I'm going to have to go back and really dig down into it because I had a bunch of stuff to do this morning. But anyway, we've got them more than ready, and the sale is going for a good price, $150,000. It's not that surprising. They're usually pretty precocious and everything, but see what we got next. So got an Instagram coming in. He's a new stallion this year, son of Into Mischief. I think he's done a really good job. I liked his yearlings last year, and they've really just kind of continued to develop. I do think that there's a little bit of Into Mischief fatigue happening. He's got a lot of stallion sons out right now, and people might start being a little bit harder on them than they would to another stallion. It's just kind of something that I've observed. So, but this one, he's up to 40,000. I'd have to bring up the. Let me see what was going on here with the. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks like that horse had worked in 10 and 3. So, I mean, people, especially buyers, care a lot about that time they put up. It isn't always reflective on the horse's true ability. There's a lot of things that can affect that. We'd have to go back and look and see kind of how he worked and used himself and everything. But 65,000 on that horse. I don't know if it's a good result for the sellers, but it might be a good result for the buyers. So got a Twirling Candy coming in, Sunny Candy Red. Twirling Candy is a really good sire and very consistent too. The horse himself, Twirling Candy, was super hard to deal with. I mean, I remember I actually saw him train live a couple times, and he was super opinionated, which was it's probably a nice way to put it, but he's been a really good sire. This horses are up there past 30,000. There's some things that you have to understand, like Twirling Candy. I think he must stand for about 60,000. Someone spent some money to breed this horse, and then whatever his journey was to get the sale. I don't know if he was a pinhook or anything. We'd have to go and find out, but we don't know how this horse vetted out. There's going to be a depository with x-rays, and the vets are going to look at that. Horses are going to get scoped, and people are going to make decisions based on that. It isn't always as cut and dry, because especially with these early 2-year-olds, they can come up with little problems that really affect their sales price. But if you take the time and you give them 3 months off, 4 months off, and let them just be a horse out at the farm, a lot of those little problems can get taken care of without having to put a lot of work into them. So it's about what you're willing to do. We got a Cairo Prince coming in here. Cairo Prince is he's a horse that I really like. He's a horse that sometimes I'll target pretty heavily because I think that he sells a more expensive looking horse than what they sometimes sell for. And he's been a fairly consistent sire. And when you get a good one, people will pay money for it. So it's a pretty good looking horse here. He's pretty typical of the sire. He's got the sire's head. He's nice and balanced. He's not going for a lot of money right now. We'd have to do some investigating to see why. But yeah, I mean, it looks okay. And I think we talked about on the video from yesterday that when you come to these sales, that you don't buy every horse you like. You just buy the horse that you both like and you can afford. And whatever your budget is, that's what your budget is. And you can have a super plan and go in there and this is the horse you want. But if there's 3 other guys that want him and they've got more money than you, well, you got to go to plan B, C, D, or F. So that's something you got to plan for. This horse, he's going to go for 20,000. I'm guessing he didn't sell. That's probably a buyback. Well, we got an Into Mischief coming through here. And I don't personally look at a lot of these. When you look at like the top 5 stallions, Into Mischief and Gun Runner, and Tap It for a long time, and Medaglia d'Oro, I don't typically even bother looking at those horses because for what people have spent to breed them to, they're gonna want money, and if I can afford them, I probably don't want to buy them. If that makes sense. But we're gonna see what this Into Mischief colt goes for. I don't think I looked at him, so. But he's got a big, tall frame on him. It's pretty good looking. He's already up to 100,000. But one thing you have to understand is that this horse has a reserve on him, and the auctioneer is going to work to go up and meet that reserve, and they're going to hope that along the way there is a bidder who is of a like mind, or hopefully two bidders. Like you see the spotter down here at the bottom of the screen, he's looking at someone. He might have someone down there, and there could also be someone online. But sometimes there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. If a horse like this one, he jumped from 50,000 to 100,000 to 200,000 really quickly, that's just the auctioneer running up the price because he doesn't want to waste a lot of time. If the horse's reserve is 350,000, he doesn't want to waste a lot of time under that. And we're already up to 550,000. I would think that they've met the reserve already. If you're putting a reserve on a horse of 600,000 or something like that, do you really want to sell them in the first place? So yeah. Kind of stalled out here. Well, they hit 650. They're still working on it. Oh, they might have someone over here off to the side. There could be someone in the back too. They're up to 675. They're looking at someone over there. $700,000. Let's go and see for a second. Let's go see what this colt worked. So he worked in 10 and 1. So, that's kind of my style of horse. He works in 10 and 1, but he probably looked really good doing it. And so, they're going to pay money. Love it. We'd have to go in and kind of take a better look at him. Looks like we might have an Improbable coming up here. Improbable is a first-year sire. He's a son of City Zip. His yearlings last year were pretty good, and I think that they did pretty good too. There were a handful that I really liked personally, and this is a nice-looking colt too. He looks quick just standing in the ring. But I don't know anything about him. Don't know what he worked. Don't know what his what the vet said about him. So, and Improbable, I think he stands for 25 or 30,000. So, he's in that range where people are going to be a little bit more lenient on what they sell him for. Hopefully, everybody made money along the way. Now, he's here. He's getting ready to start his racing career. And another thing you have to understand is that these horses will never be more valuable than what they are right now, most likely. Yes, you do have horses that go on and win graded stakes races and they're worth millions, but for the most part, the most valuable that any horse you ever see is going to be the most valuable at this moment when they're just about ready to go on the racetrack. Sold for 55,000. Looks like we got a Liam's map coming up. Sorry if my voice is all jacked up. I'm dealing with a bunch of bad allergies right now. Everything's starting to bloom. It has messed me all up. But we got a Liam's map coming in. Liam's map is probably a pretty good value sire. I think that he stands for around 40,000, and the type of horse that he produces looks more expensive than that. And he's done a good job too. He's had a bunch of really good horses. We're up to 60,000 now, 75,000. I don't know what this horse worked. We'd have to go look, but he's up to 100,000. My guess is we've probably already passed his reserve. Let's see here. Yeah, this Liam's map worked in 10 and 1 out of Emma Rose. I think that was a pretty good filly. I'd have to go look at her pedigree, but yeah. 300,000. So you can see here, it's like, we saw a horse sell for 700,000. This horse is up to 300,000. It's not always the horses that work those 9 and 4s or 10 flats that get a lot of attention. Because 10 and 1, it's only a length off 10 flat, and depending on how the horse did it, it looks like, maybe the horse is going to go on and be way better than what that represents. Running an eighth of a mile fast has pretty much nothing to do with being a good racehorse. Any horse can run an eighth of a mile fast, or should be able to anyway. Okay, here's a Guinevere out of Emotional Roar, and I think I saw this horse go through the yearling sales last year, and I want to say they paid pretty good money for him, like right around $100,000. And I think that you saw that big jump from 25 to 100. They're just trying to get out of the reserve here, which they might have done already. They're up to 160. Looks like it might have stalled out. This might be, 150 might have been the reserve. Does it look like they have anybody here? Maybe they got someone in the back, or maybe they got someone online. But they're up to 200 now. I don't see the spotters working anybody. But they're looking in the back there. Maybe they got someone back there. 250. He's pointing at someone. They might have just said he was sold. Nope, they're still waiting. Yeah, I don't see the spotters. There's going to be other spotters who might have someone, but I don't see these two guys have anything. And we stalled out at 250 grand. If I remember right, and they did pay money for this horse at 100, 250 might be his reserve. And I think this horse actually worked okay too, so yeah, I don't know. We got a Vekoma coming in here. Vekoma was a really good, a really popular sire last year with his yearlings, and I gotta admit, they did look really good. They looked like the sire, but they also looked a lot like Candy Rads. We're going to see how they kind of develop here. I don't think that they worked especially fast. I mean, some of them did, but it wasn't like all across the board everybody worked fast. But you can see here, this filly's got a pretty head. She's got a good shoulder. They opened her up at 20,000. She's up to 35. And, when you have a sire like this, like Vekoma, I think his first year he stood for 15 grand. So basically, if on these horses, everybody along the way is going to make money. The breeders make money, the pin hookers make money, and if you pick them right as a yearling, the people that sell them at 2-year-olds, they should make money too, as long as they bought them right. But a lot of these sold for a lot of money as yearlings, so we'll see. She goes for 65. And like I said, we don't know what's going on with the vet. She could have some issues or something. So we got a Kozon coming in here. He's a sire out of Florida that I like a lot. He's the son of Giants Causeway, and he does a good job. I think that he's probably another one of these sires in Florida that could probably go to Kentucky and hold their own. His horses have looked really good, and they've done really well at sales like this. So. See how we get on here. 10,000, 20,000. I don't know what the reserve is, so we're gonna find out. I think sometimes when you see it go from like a whole number, like a whole 10,000, so she went from 30,000 to 35. At that point, they might have broken through the reserve, and now we're up to 40 to 45. So. I don't see the spotters working anyone yet, but she stalled out at 50,000. that might have been the money on her. That might have been what they wanted, and either they got it or they didn't. We're gonna have to check the results afterwards. So, got another Instagram coming in, and this is kind of what I mean by people getting, you know, into mischief fatigue. We saw a lot of Maximus Mischiefs come through here last year, and now you got Instagram, and he had a lot of horses in here. You got Authentic, and he had a lot of horses in here. And I've noticed people have been a little bit tougher on these horses than I think that they deserve. But still, a really good one is going to go for money. So let's see how this one goes right now. So looking at the spotters here, they're looking for buyers. I don't see anything yet. They went to 37 to 40 to 42. So that tells me they have someone live, and it could be online. Oh, spotter might have someone here in the pavilion. 47. Looks like they stalled out here. Well, I mean, 47. It could be a good result. I don't remember what Instagram stood for, but I don't think it was much. It might have been around 10 grand or something. So, um, which, the horse was born 2 years ago, so the stud fee doesn't have a great deal to do with it. But the stud fee has to do with expectations along the way. We got a Munnings coming in here. Munnings is another one of these horses that I don't typically really even look at because he stands for $100,000. People expect to make money on them, and they're usually just out of my budget if I want to buy them. If I don't want to buy them, if they're in my budget, I probably don't want to buy them. So. They're up to 80,000, 90,000, 100,000, and it looks to me like they're just kind of working them up towards wherever the reserve is. 120,000, 130. They might have someone over here. He's pointing at someone. And Munnings is a top sire, and people want to buy these horses. And they're usually a little bit more forgiving when it's a top sire than they are if it's a sire that's trying to make his way up through the ranks. So I don't know. They didn't spend a lot of time on this horse, so I don't know if he sold for that. Okay, so we got a Neolithic coming through here, and Neolithic, I want to say he stands in Maryland now. I think he was in Kentucky for a little while. He might even be in Florida, but he's a horse that every once in a while I see one of his, and I just think, that's a pretty nice horse. And they usually go pretty cheap. Value horse. I haven't looked at this one, so I don't know for sure, but he has had some horses that I think are pretty nice. So he might do okay, especially for regional sire. Keep him against state breds and in those valuable state programs, and you can make out okay even if it's a stallion that you're kind of not too sure about. So I think they have some buyers on this horse. You can kind of see it's going in 2s and 5s. So stalled up. We're at 37, 40. Yeah. I mean, Neolithic, what's he stand for? 3,500 or something? And so, if you bred a mare to a stallion for $3,500 and you kept that horse for 2 years and put it in training, 47,000 is probably about what it cost you to get that horse to the sale. That's kind of the 50,000 is probably right around the break-even point if you've bred a horse and kept them for 2 years. So yeah, the economics on it just don't always make a lot of sense, do they? People are throwing darts at a board sometimes. Got a Mendelssohn here. He opened up at 5,000. Mendelssohn is a horse that I like a lot. I think I always kind of take a peek at him because he can throw a really good horse with a lot of scope and stretch, and He puts a good shoulder on him. So up to 22,000 now. And he can kind of be versatile too. I think that he could run on dirt or turf. Um, and you always like to see that. It's always about giving yourself the most outs, the most opportunities. Oh, he's got somebody down there. Got him on 30,000. Oh, but you can see here that little red sign came on the board. It looks like this horse is a cribber. And all of a sudden he dropped down. I don't know. Yeah, cribbers. Cribbing is it's a psychological issue. It's a habit that some horses develop, and they like to chew on wood, fences, and it can cause a problem. Not only does it damage your fences, but it can cause like esophagus and breathing issues on some horses. So yeah, people try and avoid them, but if the horse is good enough, they're still going to buy them. And they have different things that you can try and curb their behavior, but it's usually something that's for life. It's a habit that they get into, and it's a habit that they don't usually break. So we got a blame horse coming here, and this is a big colt too. Goodness. And I like to see horses like this, a little, maybe not so much like this, but I like to see him have some weight. Even coming off the farm, being in training and working at this sale, I don't want him to see them squeeze that lemon dry too much. Sort of 7,000, so he's probably got some issues that we're not seeing just because we haven't looked at the horse. But big body on him. He looks like a 10,000-pound 9-year-old, you know. But he's behaving himself pretty well. He's being a little sweetheart here. Just taking it all in. And this is another thing about when you go to these sales, you look at the horses and you see how they move, and you judge them on their physical. A lot of times it's good to just take a quiet moment. You go and stand by a tree and just watch the horses, the way they interact with the rest of the stable. If you see a horse that is sulking in the back of his stall, and not really wanting to interact with anything that's happening outside of it, that's usually a bad sign to me, because they're not handling the stress of a sale very well, which means that they're not going to handle the stress of being a racehorse very well. Usually, and in my experience, like horses I've seen gone through the sale that were really good horses, they usually had their head out over the stall. They're looking at stuff in the shed row. They're looking at the horses walk by. They're looking at the people walk by. And they're really engaged with the whole experience of being at the sale, being at the racetrack, and handling the mental aspect of it really well. And I've actually really liked horses and then just struck them off my list because, they weren't handling the stress of the sale very well. And we've got a Tom's de Tot come through here as a smart strike stallion. I didn't love his yearlings last year. I think he just didn't put a lot of leg under him, but a couple of them look pretty good. So he might have a few horses jump up. I thought we were supposed to end here at hip 216, or was it 221? Let's go and look. I think with the outs, maybe they decided to get a few more horses in here. Oh, nope, I was wrong. They're going to go to 284. Okay, cool. I was looking at the under-tax sale. Got a Catholic Boy coming in here, and Catholic Boy is not a horse I've been a fan of. I know he won the Travers. I know he's the son of More Than Ready, but I just since I saw his offspring when they were foals, I just haven't really liked him that much, and it's kind of borne out some. There's some horses like that. even this year. You know, I know that people have gotten some good tis the laws, and there's probably going to be some that sell for good money. But when I saw them as foals, I was just not very impressed. When I saw them as yearlings, I wasn't that impressed. And you know, but that horse may make a liar out of me, so we'll see. Same thing with like a maximum security. I didn't love a lot of them. Um, and I'm always a little bit dubious. So when you have a horse that is that talented, like, you know, when you have a horse like um, California Chrome, where they got kind of a weird pedigree, you know, and in the quality, the underlying quality of the pedigree is questionable, but the horse itself is a superstar. I'm going to be super dubious when they come to auction. And Maximum Security is another horse like that, where he's a son of New Year's Day. I'm just a little bit skeptical that a son of New Year's Day is going to be a great sire. Um, you know, I hate to say it, a horse like Nick's Go, who's the son of Painter out of a military mare, I'm a little bit dubious about how good they're going to be. But I do have to admit, when I saw his winglings and short yearlings this year, he really put a good body on them and stuff, so he might do okay. But there, I mean, just historically, it bears out over time. Like, you know, Skip Away was a horse with a really strange pedigree, and he was such a great handicap horse, but his offspring just didn't do that well because the underlying quality of the pedigree can't push those future generations along. Um, you know, just my thoughts on all that. But we've got a Caracaro coming through here. It's up to 150,000. Caracaro is a horse that I think he's by Uncle Mo. He didn't have. I think he might only be black type placed. I don't think he won a stakes race, but they liked his pedigree enough to where they gave him a shot at stud. And some of his yearlings looked all right, and I think they were even a little bit value early on, and then people realized that they kind of looked pretty good, and they started paying more for him. Whether this horse is actually going for 200 grand, we'll find out after the sale. But yeah, I think that he's probably going to do better than what you would think for a horse that never won a stakes race. Just go down here. Let's see what we got coming up. Oops. Yeah, we've got a practical joke. I'm guessing they're going in now. Got a Liam's Map, Valdo coming up, another Caracaro. Yeah, there's some interesting horses coming up. So, cool. I think I looked at this horse, and if I remember right, this horse went pretty good. So, let's see how they go through the sale. Practical joke, I mean, I think even at what's he standing for now? Is it 60,000? I think even at a price like 60 or even 80,000, his stud fee might be value. He's just doing everything right when the horses come to the sale. So, yeah, I totally buy this horse might go for 400,000 or something. You know, and you can see she's just a big, tall, good-bodied filly. She's got that pretty head, and it's another one of those things. This is another son of Into Mischief, and Practical Joke was one of his first siring sons that came to stud, and people loved him. But I just think there might be a little bit of fatigue on his sons, some of the new ones, even though they are producing decent horses. So we're going to see how that all works out. Got 435 here. And I would assume that we're well past her reserve, depending on how the horse came into the sale. You know, sometimes the sale price here, it has nothing to do with it's just economical. They might have paid a lot of money for this filly as a yearling, and they need to get money out of her. I know there was a horse yesterday that they had bought for, I think, 150,000, and it ended up selling for 250. You know, which is a good result. I said yesterday. I think it was early this morning when I just took a peek at it, but yeah, which is a good result from. In fact, I think it was American Pharoah, Bonita Bay. Maybe they paid 125,000. I have to go back and see, but yeah, I mean, I personally wouldn't pay 125 or 150,000 for a horse to pinhook. I think that that's reaching dangerous territory. Um, I'm much cheaper. I'll probably spend 30. Because you have to understand, it's going to cost you 30 grand to get the horse from the yearling sale to 2-year-old sale. So if you pay $150,000 for a horse, you're going to be in it for 180 by the time they make the 2-year-old sale, if they make the 2-year-old sale. And the math just starts to get a little bit more dicey. So if you pay 30,000 for a horse, you're in the horse for 60. It's just a lot easier to sell a horse for 80 or 90 or 100. So got Liam's map here. Like we said, Liam's map does a good job, and I think he's value. I think he stands for 40,000, which is pretty good value on a horse that produces horses like he does. Yeah, we got a Valdel coming up here. I think Valdel out of Fighter Wing. I think I saw this horse at a sale last year. We'll see how he goes. $310,000 on this Liam's map. And this is why people bring good 2-year-olds to the sale. Paying 300 grand for a horse that hasn't made its first start is it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's just being an outside observer, it would be crazy to do that. And when you get to that level of paying 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 and up, the underlying issue is that that horse isn't being bought as a business proposition. I mean, they can tell themselves that it's a business proposition. They can say, we think this horse is going to be a stakes winner and he's going to go on and do this and all that. But the likelihood of that happening is pretty minimal in the greater scheme of things. Like, just think of the math about getting a horse into the starting gate of the Kentucky Derby. There's 30,000 horses born every year, and only 20 of those make the gate for the Derby. So finding a Derby horse is like looking for a needle in a stack of needles. I mean, it's so difficult. And then to come up with the winner, to come up with that one needle out of a stack of 30,000 needles, it's nearly impossible. And I think that chasing races like that, where you say I want to win the Derby or I want to win the Breeders' Cup Classic, it's a lot of things that rich people fall into a trap. It's an ego thing. And I know for a lot of agents, they would rather. I understand that you're going to make your money off people like that, but for a lot of agents, they're telling these people, hey, like, why don't we do this? Let's just try and buy a good racehorse. But at the end of the day, it's their money, I'm just going to take a short break, guys. I'll be back in just a little bit. Enjoy the sale. And I'm back. Sorry guys, this is my off season, but I still have to answer the phone. So got a flatter that just went through. Got a Munnings coming up that worked really fast. We got a horse by 1,000 words coming up, and maybe we'll talk about that horse. We got a Munnings and it worked 9-4. We're gonna, it could be he's got some underlying issues or something, and you know, but we're gonna see how much this one goes for. Yeah, so they opened this horse up at 100,000, and like we talked about, they're trying to not waste time. If this horse is a high reserve, they're just not going to waste time. Um, and hopefully they got some bidders on him. You know, it's a filly by Munnings who worked real fast. I mean, her reserve could be 300,000 or something. I don't see any action from the spotter that we can see in the pavilion, but there could be someone in the back. Like I talked about, a horse like this, I'm not even going to look at. I know that I can't afford her if she's any good. So, but the next horse through the ring is going to be by 1,000 words, and I want to talk about that horse because I think it's important to call your shot a little bit here. But anyway, 1,000 words is a horse. He's by Pioneer the Nile out of Pomeroy's Pistol, and he had a big reputation. I know he was with Bob Baffert, and I think he won like the Los Alamitos Futurity or something. And he just never lived up to his expectations. But when I saw his yearlings this last year, they looked more expensive than what you would think, especially when he only stood for 5 grand. And there were a couple of them. I think that there was a horse in the sale they had up in New York for state breds. I mean, he might have been my favorite horse in the whole sale. Um, and yeah, I kind of suspect that this is going to be a horse that surprises a few people with how well they go when they get to the races. They looked more precocious than what you would think, and also they look like horses that might be able to train on and go on good as 3-year-olds. I'm not saying he's going to be a top 10 sire, even a top 25 sire, but when you talk about a horse that stands for 5 grand, and you can buy a horse for 15,000 or 20,000, and the breeder makes money, the pinhookers are going to make money too if those horses are good. Like this horse sold for 70,000. There's every chance that somebody made money on that horse, and that's what I'm concerned about. Like, is it a stallion that you can make money on? Which isn't, it's not in the spirit of horse racing, but if you want to be in the game for a long time, that's what you got to do. You gotta think about the money and think about the economics of it all while still enjoying and liking being around the horses anyway. Got a Motown colt coming in here. Uh, Motown, son of Uncle Mo, obviously. Um, I'm not sure how they're gonna get on. Um, he was a really good looking horse himself, and some of his yearlings have been really good looking too. I just think that people have been a little bit cold on him. They're not too sure that he's gonna be anything. But also, it's kind of like what we talked about with Into Mischief. I think that people have a little bit of Uncle Mo's son fatigue. There's a bunch of them at stud. There's a bunch of choices out there, and when you have that many choices, some of them are going to get lost in the wash. So this horse, they're going up over 100,000 for it, so it must have gone pretty good. Whether that's an actual number that's been bid or not, we don't know yet. We're going to see if the horse sells, but yeah, what I can see, this is a pretty nice looking colt. He's got a real classic look to him, so that's good. We got a No Nay Never coming up, which is actually a European stallion. I think Coolmore. I don't know if they stood him here in the U.S. yet or not, but I want to say he is a son of Scat Daddy, so there is some dirt pedigree there. But he was a really good 2 year old, and I know that he's really popular in Europe too. He gets a quick horse, so I don't know how popular he's going to be here in the U.S., but this horse did work in 10 flat, so there might be something there. And you can see this horse. He's kind of on the smaller side. He's a little bit lighter built, and that's kind of what No Nay Never looked like, and it's what a lot of his offspring look like. It's not going to put me off, especially this being a filly. Um, Especially if you think that this is going to be a turf filly, a lot of those are on the smaller side. They're not going to be a very big stretchy horse. They're just going to be smaller, have a lot of balance, and that's what you want to see. We're up to 275 now. And I think that this might actually, they met the reserve on this horse. I would think so anyway. They stalled out at 285. Let's see if they get anything else. Yeah, it looks like he's got someone over there. Okay, so they're fighting it out. They're at 290 now. That might have been the last gasp. Gonna see if they get 300. Doesn't look like they did though. Nope, they're done. Okay, cool. I think that's a good result for No Nay Never. He's a stallion that I really kind of like, just because he's going to get good racehorses. He just may not get a lot of big racehorses. We got a dialed in that came in, dialed in, long time useful stallion. I think that he presents a lot of value when you're buying for weanlings and yearlings, and he can also get you a really good 2 year old. Son of Mineshaft. He also comes from a really good family. So, and he does well with a lot of different types of mares. I don't think it matters too much, but you know, we started out at 5,000, 7,000. So I'm guessing that this filly right here, she's got some underlying issues that maybe the vet pointed out, and maybe we could even see it if we went and looked at her walk. So, but that it doesn't mean that that's the end of it all. Say this filly, say they sell her for 15,000 or 20,000, and you take her home. If she's got some little issues, you just put her up, let her be a horse for 6 months, and then bring her back next year, because she's a big filly. She's kind of stretchy and stuff. Like, she's gonna take some time anyway, so you might as well just put her up and let her get over her stuff and go from there. And I gotta admit, I'm a sucker for a horse in a plain brown wrapper. I don't know what it is, but I just, just that plain bay, no white. I'm always just kind of attracted to horses like that. So I might be a little bit biased here on this horse. We got a Vacoma coming up that worked really fast, 9-4. So this might be a horse that people have been waiting on. After that, we got a Always Dreaming. Like I said yesterday in the video, I am not a fan of that horse, and I have never been a fan of that horse. But anyway, here's the Vacoma. You know, my kind of horse. No white, plain brown wrapper. Yeah, I probably would have looked at this horse a couple of times. So, they opened up at 20,000, 30,000. This horse worked in 9-4, and we'd have to go and look and see if there were some conformational issues that maybe made him start that low. This is a cribber, which is going to put a lot of people off. Um, yeah. So, but just looking at her in the ring, she's a good size and she's nice and balanced. I think that they're going to do okay here anyway, as long as they get past this mark. Yeah, I wonder what the reserve was on this filly, because sometimes they could come in and say, well, we're in her for this much, let's put a reserve on her for 80,000 or something, and then she goes and works fast, and they get a lot more interest, and then they think, well, we'll bump up the reserve a little bit. and sometimes that can bite you. I think it's better to just, have a plan and stick with it, and then whatever happens, happens. So, they've kind of broken out of that 10 by 10 by 10 in the bidding. They're up to fives. So I think that they got some live fish now. 170,000. You got to remember, Vacoma stood for I think 15,000 his first season. And this is the power of first year sires. If that's a real number, 190,000, I think that probably everybody involved with this horse all along the way, from the breeder to the pinhookers, anybody who's involved with that horse, they just made money. If that's a real money, or if that's a real number. So we've got to always dreaming. Like I said, I've never really been a fan of this horse. I didn't think he was a very strong Derby winner. Um, I just don't like his offspring a lot. They're just sort of big and awkward, and just bluntly, I just think that they're pretty slow. So, yeah. But it doesn't mean that he can't jump up and sire a good horse. It's just that's just my overall impression of him, so I don't really bother. We've got an Honor AP coming in here, and Honor AP was a horse that they paid a lot of money for as a yearling. I think they paid 800,000 by honor code, and he was a good horse. Won the Santa Anita Derby. My impression on this horse was that even though he was really good looking and he won the Santa Anita Derby, I don't know how brilliant he was, so I don't know how his 2-year-olds will go. But I do know that he is stamping the crap out of these horses. They all look like him. They all. I mean, you could walk down to Shed Row and look and see an AP Indy right away, because they all look like him. So when you see that, you do kind of think like, hey, like maybe this horse might be all right. I just think that they're not. They're probably not going to be super precocious. Maybe a few of them will be, and he'll do okay as a freshman sire. But I think that these are going to be horses that people are looking at for uh, distance races next year, going 2 turns. Like this colt right here, he's big and long. He's well built though, and he does have balance despite how big he is. Um, so yeah, I don't really know how high I am on him, but yeah, he could be all right. So got another improbable come through here. Um, we talked about this horse earlier, and like I said, I did like some of his yearlings last year. Um, I just think that, like, in this sale, it just seems like they might be a little bit cold on him. And I don't know if maybe we just haven't seen the best ones to go through the ring yet. Um, but yeah, and he should be a horse that'll get early winners too. I mean, he's by City Zip, so who, I mean, if you don't remember, City Zip was a super good 2-year-old, especially early on. I think he was winning races in June and July of his 2-year-old year. So yeah, and a son of relaunch too. So gotta love that. You know, this improbable, he's gonna go for 45,000. Like I said, I think that they've just been a little bit cold on him so far. But yeah, got another Cairo Prince coming through here. This is a horse that I have used in the past, targeted in the past. I think he gets a more expensive looking horse than what they usually go for, but they can be kind of hit and miss. Like you know, you got to buy the right one. You know, they're up to 40,000 now. The bidding kind of went a little bit weird here, so I think that they're actually past the reserve already. 55,000, 60,000. You know, I would hope if this horse is a pinhook, they didn't pay a ton of money for him. Um, you know, I think that they're probably hoping to get 80,000 or 85,000. That's kind of the mark on some of these 2 year olds, which means you got to buy him for, you know, you got to buy him as a yearling for 25, basically, in order to make any kind of money as a 2 year old. So they might have been okay there, maybe. Got a Echo Town. He's the son of Spitestown, and Echo Town is a really good looking horse. He's a first year sire. Um, I haven't made up my mind on him yet. There's some I like, some I don't. But I think that he's a sire that I probably just stay away from until I really see what he does. But so far, I think in this sale, I think a couple went through, and people have really been going for him. So um, yeah, I mean they might be high on him, and then if he backs that up with some winners this year, then yeah, he could really jump up the ranks here next year. And I mean, being a son of Spitestown, there's just, you know, outside of Munnings, there's not too many of them around anymore. I think Spitester is one who can get a quick horse, but the opinion on him has dropped a lot. Um, yeah, Munnings, this horse, Spitester. I'm trying to think of another one outside of that, and that's to be expected because Spitetown is, you know, he's I think he's pension now. He must be by now because he's got to be 25 years old or 30 years, not 25, 26, 27 years old, something like that. So, you know, $145,000 on this court. I think Echo Town stands for about 7,500. So that's a good result there. That's a good result for them. This done higher power. I'm not too sure what to make of them. There have been some that I really liked when I saw him last year. Son of Medalliadoro, and sort of like Honor AP. He wasn't a horse with a lot of brilliance. Um, he's a horse from a good family. He's a half brother to Alternation, and I think that we're not really going to know until next year what kind of stallion he's going to be. But they haven't been super high on him yet. I do know that there were a couple last year um, that I saw sell as yearlings who I actually really like. So you know, maybe we haven't seen the best of them yet. Got an Honest Mischief here, and that's another son of Into Mischief. But this is a New York sire, and I think that they'll kind of like him in that region up there. Really liked his yearlings last year, and I think they worked pretty good in this sale too. So there might be some good interest on him. Yeah, I mean we're up to 165,000 on this filly now. 175. That's a good result for this stallion, and I don't know what he stood for up there, but I think he's at sequel, um, which they do a really good job. That's a good stallion station, and they kind of dominate that New York region. So you would expect him to do good. You know, we're up to 260,000 on this filly now, 270,000. Yeah, I mean, good for them. I think they had a battle going on in here with a few different people. Yeah, 310,000 on this filly, first year stallion. I wouldn't personally recommend paying for it, but you can just see she moves really well. She worked fast, and people were confident that this one was going to be okay. So good luck to them. I think this is a should be a complexity. Yeah, this is a complexity here. Complexity is a first year stallion by McLean's Music. He's out of a Yes It's True mare, and that kind of makes me think that some of these horses are going to be pretty precocious. I'm not familiar with this filly. I didn't look at her or anything, so we'll see what they think of her. Started out at 5,000, now we're up to 10,000. Tells me that there either wasn't a reserve or it was a pretty low reserve on this filly. There could be some underlying issues with her that we're not aware of. Um, but yeah, 27,000. I think complexity stands for 20. I want to say he was around 20,000 because McLean's Music I think stands for 50. So, and McLean's Music is one of those horses that he gets a lot of good race horses. He gets a lot of good sales horses, and he's been good value for a long time if you can buy him right. So, got another 1,000 words come through here, and like I said, this is one of the stallions that I think is gonna be good value this year and next year. I liked a lot of his horses as yearlings, and I don't think that people are high on this horse as I am, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he jumps up and has some success. So especially like we talked about, 1,000 words stands for $5,000. So when you start talking about how his 2 year olds are selling for 30 or 40 or 50, some of them might even break six figures. That's a good result for breeders. It's a good result for pin hookers. They can make a little bit of money, and I think that next year people will be more excited to see this horse. So we're up to 37,000 now, and really you could buy these horses pretty cheap last year, even as yearlings. But I just kept thinking that they looked more expensive than what they were going for. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I actually I didn't buy any of this last year. The one that I really liked, I think he sold for about $100,000. He was like the most expensive 1,000 words sold last year. So anyway, but that's my bad. That's just my taste. Kind of doing me in. But we got a preservationist coming through here. He's the son of Arch, that stands at Airdrie, and I actually liked a couple of his horses. He just doesn't put a lot of leg under him. They're not very big, and I think that people just don't quite understand him yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if he has a few good ones here in the next year or so. He's a second year stallion and not a lot of foals on the ground. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being okay. But um, yeah, he doesn't put a lot of leg under him. They're just not the kind of horse you're thinking they're going to be good like 3 year olds on dirt. They look a lot more like turf sprinters. So, but that's okay. There's a lot of good races that you can win as a turf sprinter. And, you know, this filly's going okay, 47,000. You know, if anyone's wondering, I'm not dying over here. I have really bad allergies, and it's making it difficult to breathe. To breathe, so just bear with me on that. Hopefully, I'll be over it by next week. But yeah, this filly, they got her up here at 60,000. I think that that's a good result for everyone involved. It should be anyway. I would hope so. What do we got coming up next? Whoa, got someone that decided they didn't want. They took one look at the crowd in the pavilion and said, "No, I don't want to do that." Yeah, they got him coming back in though. Good. There's another Caracaro, and I think people are pretty high on these 2-year-olds. He looked. I didn't see that many of them as yearlings. For whatever reason, I think I only saw a few of them, but it seems like at this sale, people are pretty high on these Caracaros. So yeah, you know, he's a size. You know, like we talked about, he's a son of Uncle Mo, and people start to get son fatigue. So you got Sons of Into Mischief, Sons of Uncle Mo, Sons of Tappet, and after a while, even if it's a really good stallion prospect, people get a little bit of fatigue with them because they're all in competition with each other. But yeah, I mean, 75,000 here. I'm guessing that this horse worked pretty well, and then was examined pretty well. Probably had a pretty good walk. So hey, and that's a great result for this stallion. I think he only stands for about $5,000. And I'm trying to think where he stands. It could be Calumet. Um, yeah, yeah. Maybe I'll have to look that up. But I know he doesn't stand for a ton of money because he I don't even think he was a stakes winner. It's just stakes place. So we got a Classic Empire. Classic Empire is a horse that changed my mind a little bit. I didn't like him as yearlings. I didn't like him as 2-year-olds. But I think as we've gone on, he's actually starting to get better and better horses. So he's a horse that I probably wouldn't avoid so much anymore. But yeah, I didn't love him at first. You know, I think we might do another video here in the next few days where we kind of pick apart this sale and we go and look at how the horses ended up here. Because you can go back and you can look at different sales and see which horses were purchased as weanlings and yearlings. We talked a little bit about that yesterday on the video, um, specifically the Army Mule filly out of Bitska, who, yeah, we had seen as a weanling, as a yearling, and then as a 2-year-old at the sale. And we were talking about the economics of it, where she was purchased for 30,000, which I thought was a really good buy, and then sold for 77,000 as a yearling, and then she ended up in this sale. But you have to understand, from weanling to yearling, they were probably only in that filly for 40 grand. So selling her for 77,000 was a really good was a really good result for them. When you buy a horse for 77,000, you're probably going to be in the better part of 110,000 on that filly by the time she makes it to a 2-year-old sale. And I wasn't too sure that she was going to be worth much more than that. And she ended up selling this morning for 125,000. So on the face of it, they did okay. But then, then by the time the consignor takes their fee and the sales take their fee, I think they probably only got grocery money, which is a little bit frustrating when they were so close to having a really good result. If they had sold that filly for 130, 140, 150,000, and they were right there, But anyway, they're going to get to collect their money and go back and try it again this next year. So, um, yeah. So I think that we might do a video where we talk a little bit more about that and dig into this sale a little bit and see where these horses came from and what people were paying, and then where they ended up here in relation to what it would cost them to end up here. So, we got an Uncle Mo in the ring. Uh, like I said, this is another horse that I just kind of avoid because I figure if I can afford him, I probably don't want him. A little bit like that. Um, this is a nice filly. We've got a Tis the Law coming up, and I think I mentioned earlier I did not love this horse when I saw them as weanlings or yearlings. I'm a little bit skeptical about them. I know personally some people that have them that really like this stallion. I just wasn't a fan. Um, you know, he can make a liar out of me, and that's fine. I just didn't love them when I saw them as young horses, and usually that means that they're not going to produce that much as 2-year-olds and early horses. But hey, I've been proven wrong a lot of times before. But that was my impression of him. So, but you can see this horse here. They got him up to 80,000. I think this one worked kind of well. So, and he's a good looking horse. He's not very tall or anything, but he's got a good shoulder on him. We'd have to look at him a lot closer to really get an opinion. Um, and just because I say, hey, I don't like this stallion, I don't like his what I've seen from his get, it doesn't mean that you couldn't go in and see an individual that you're like, I gotta buy this horse anyway, even if you're not in love with the stallion, because sometimes horses just have a little bit of magic about them that you can't ignore. We've got a gift box coming in here, and I don't think there were too many of them in the sale. He was a son of Twirling Candy. John Sadler had him. He was a super talented horse. I don't think he made that many starts, but I want to say he won the Santa Anita Handicap, maybe. Oof. Actually, I don't quite remember, but it was something like that. He was a California horse. Like I said, super talented. I did like some of the yearlings last year. They all look like gift box. They're sort of like a leggier, stretchier kind of horse, but they all look like they're gonna take time. And I'm not sure how he's gonna be as a 2-year-old sire, but maybe as 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, they'll kind of come on. They're really going for this horse right here. I didn't see them going for a lot of money last year. Um, in fact, I can't even remember if I saw one go for more than $80,000 or $90,000. But yeah, so it could be that people have seen the few at these sales and they got a lot higher on them. So that's good for them. We've got a collected in the ring right now, and this is a horse that I've targeted in the past. He's sort of a racehorse sire. He sires good racehorses, but he's not going to get you a lot of big horses. But yeah, we've actually I think 2021, we had a 2020 or 2021, we had a filly that we pinhooked as a 2 year old, and she did really good. Um, yeah, I mean, and there's some sires like this, like that they just, you don't get the feeling that they're going to go on and win a lot of big races, but they're going to be useful if you're looking for value. And Collected is one of those. We got a Caracaro coming in here. We've talked about this. I think that people have really liked this horse coming in these 2 year old sales. I saw a few of them last year, and they did look good, but I don't really know what to make of them. But they're really kind of going for this horse now. I think that you just kind of worry because he didn't win a stakes race. He was stakes placed. He's a son of Uncle Mo, so he's in competition with all these other horses like Nyquist and Motown and a few others. So you got to see where he's going to fall in all that. But people are going for him now. I mean, 70,000. Like I said, I don't think Caracaro stands for that much. And you got to think that the breeders are really pleased by this because they took a gamble, and it's paying off so far. So good for them. You know. We've got a McKenzie coming into the ring now. I don't think we've seen one come through. He's a son of Street Sense. Bob Baffert had him. What's kind of funny about this horse is I think there was always a sense that he didn't quite live up to his potential. But when you go and look at the races he won like the Whitney and a bunch of other good races. But people really had a high opinion of that horse as a racehorse. Um, and it may not be fair, but sometimes it does carry over a little bit. I think that his yearlings sold really good last year. They're not really going for this colt at the moment. I don't know what he worked. Um, just looking at him, you can see his shoulder is very upright, like very upright. It looks like he's wearing a turtleneck. So yeah, there could have been some things about him that people just didn't love. Maybe he didn't vet very well, but anyway. So I want to talk about this horse. This horse is by Win Win Win, and I think Win 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 was a Canadian horse, or he ran up in Canada or something. He is a son of Hat Trick, which means that this is the Sunday Silence sire line. We've been trying to bring that sire line back to the U.S. They brought in Yoshida, and he hasn't worked out or anything. I saw some yearlings from this horse last year that I thought were better than what I expected them to be, and I wouldn't be surprised if he jumps up and does something. Um, I didn't see many of them. I don't know how many were in this sale. I'd have to go and look, but yeah, you can see that this filly, she's going for 60,000. I don't think Win 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 stands for much money. He's over at Adri, and they took a shot on this horse, which I like to see. I like to see people gamble on him. But I wouldn't be surprised if this horse did something, especially when they get a little bit older. You can see that this is a big, stretchy filly. She's got a big frame. It's going to take a little while for her to grow into it. But yeah, I'm interested to see what this stallion does. So yeah, hopefully we can get some of that Sunday Silence blood back in the United States. Correct the mistakes of the past, I guess. Anyway. we've got an American Freedom horse coming in the ring. I'm pretty sure we talked about this horse yesterday um, on the video I did. And if I remember right, what was weird about this horse is that his first dam, his second dam, and his third dam were all unraced, which I don't know that I've ever seen that before. I mean, unraced dams do happen obviously, but the first three generations is a little bit wild to me. I thought physically there was lots to like about this horse. He worked okay, but I just think that pedigree is pretty. It's a pretty hard sell to buyers, you know. And I think my ultimate verdict was I probably pass on this colt. He also had a couple other little physical things that I had questions about that I probably would want to look at him live to see. But yeah, I'm not surprised that he's not going for big money here, despite the fact that I think American Freedom does do a good job, and he can get a pretty popular colt at these 2-year-old sales. But yeah, I just thought it was just a funky thing. You know, the first three dams all unraced. That would really make me worry about what was going on with this family. So anyway, it looks like the hammer came down at 27,000. I'm not super surprised by that. So yeah. Anyway, we've got a Bernardini coming into the ring. So could see some fireworks. Bernardini is a horse that he's sort of hit and miss. He's like a boomer bust. When they're good, they're super good. When they're bad, they are super bad. And depending on how this horse looks and how this horse worked, he could be a six-figure horse easily all day, or he goes unsold. We just don't know. you know. It also looks like this is a wriggling, means that one of his testicles hasn't descended. Now, if it's causing some discomfort, you'd probably have to do something about it. But for the most part, it's probably not going to affect his racing, or if it came to it, even his breeding ability. You know, I think APND famously was a wriggling. So, yeah. But it is something that they want everybody to know. Yeah, so I mean, we're already up to 185. I don't know what the reserve would be, but yeah, we'll see how we go. Just because they're kind of going in odd numbers of 5 and then 2 to 10 instead of 2 to 20, it makes me think that we're kind of past the reserve. Yeah, 225. They got someone live out there. $245. See what we got coming up next. Got a Mr. Money coming up. Mr. Money, Florida Stallion. We got a Vacoma coming up. Malibu Moon. We got a Curling coming up. We got a Cajun Breeze coming up, and I think I looked at this horse, and Tom McCrocklin has this horse, so I'm kind of interested to see what that horse does. Anyway, I'm actually going to take a quick break. I still got to make phone calls while I'm doing this. We're always working, so yeah, I'll see you guys in a few minutes. And I'm back, guys. Work is calling me. I'm gonna have to probably end this here pretty quick. We're gonna look at one more horse. This next horse that's coming up. This Curlin horse is in the ring right now, doing big money. Of course, it's Curlin. So, but I did want to talk about this Cajun Breeze that's coming up. Not so much because of the horse, but because the guy that's consigning him. If you wanna follow like somebody who has a really good eye for horses that do well at 2-year-old sales, Tom McCrocklin is one of those guys. He always seems to have horses that really fit the bill, that they handle himself real well. So I want to take a look at this horse that's going to be coming up. He's by a Florida stallion, probably doesn't have that many around, and also he's not going to be super popular. So I'm assuming that this is probably going to be a good physical. Look like he worked pretty fast. So that horse is going to be coming up after this one. They're taking a long time on this Curlin. I wonder if they had a big reserve on this colt. The reserve itself could have been 500 grand. We won't know until the results come out. But got this Cajun Breeze coming in here. Kind of interesting to see this horse. Like I said, Tom McCrocklin, he has an eye for horses that do well at these sales, and then they also handle themselves really well. Like he brings them over there ready. So, and this is a colt that he's by a stallion I'm not super familiar with, but I know he doesn't have that many horses on the ground yet. I just think it's an interesting situation to just kind of see what happens here. Yeah, so we're up to 40,000. They kind of stalled out that might be around the reserve. Let's see if they get anything. We're up to 50, 60, 70, 80,000, 90,000, 100,000 on a horse by Cajun Breeze. One other thing that could be happening here, it's like and just to, I don't want to put anyone personally on blast, but sometimes you'll be in the ring and you're bidding against the owner of the horse. So they have a number in mind, and instead of putting a reserve on the horse, they might just bid you up to an area where they think they should be selling it. Some people think it's a little bit underhanded or something. It's better to let the market decide, but I'm just letting you know this is what happens. So you know but like I said, in Tom McCrocklin's case, he brings those horses over there ready to perform, and they're usually handled a lot, and they act the right way. Yeah, I think this is a great result for Cajun Breeze. It's good for the breeders, and hopefully they've bought this horse the right way. I'd have to go, but look, I might have seen this horse in a Ocala sale last year. I'd have to go back and look and see what. I know there were a few Cajun Breezes that I looked at and just thought, these are kind of all right. It's just hard to hang your hat on a stallion that you don't know. But sometimes when you do, that's where you make the most money. So anyway, 210,000. I think they probably sold this colt. I think that they probably, I think that they really did well. So anyway, I think I'm going to end this live stream for now. We're going to have another video where we dig into the sale a little bit more, and we'll look at some of these horses, how they ended up there, how they performed, and how they did as far as making money in the sale. So anyway, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys in a few days. Thanks. Bye.